Good evening. Sorry it took a little bit of time for me to get into my battle gear. So, anyway, I would like to thank the Woxen University and Wien particularly for inviting me. I think the theme for the TEDx series here is beginning of a new era. And I think what better than to talk about sustainable development as we look towards a brighter, better future for all of us. So, this is just a holding slide. I'll come to it in a minute. But before I get there, I would just like to tell you where I'm coming from. So, you heard that I work for the Indian Administrative Service. I look after irrigation, which is basically water resources management. And I also look after the environment portfolio for the state of Telangana. But more than that, actually, over 3 decades, I've been dealing with grassroots level development works. I think the administrative services should be renamed into a development service because administration is not really what we do. We do development. Sometimes we do it well, sometimes we do it badly. I think history will judge us. And during my 3 decades long journey in this area of development, I've seen things which have worked. I've seen things which have not worked. But most of all, what I feel is that many of the people working in the domain of development or in the academia or related support functionalities, we really don't have a very clear concept of what's required. I'll come to the concept of what is sustainable development. So, first of all of us aspire to lead a better life for ourselves. We all want economic growth and, we study so that we get a good job. We become better professionals so that we can earn better in whatever area we are working in as doctors, as engineers, as lawyers, as so many professionals, actors and or teachers, professors. But in that, we very often forget about the flip side of economic growth. What are we'll try to put it into a very broad rubric, a framework, which will be sort of something that you will carry forward from here onwards as you participate in the journey of life, in the journey of development. So the flip side of development is essentially lack of social inclusion, stratification of society, the big gap that is emerging as we grow richer and richer, poor are becoming poorer and poorer. We've heard about the Occupy Wall Street movement. We've heard about the Naxalite problem in Telangana and in India in general. These are manifestations of the social inequity, which has followed in the wake of what should be really truly underlined as a remarkable, beyond imagination kind of human growth. I'll be coming to the statistics in a bit, but I just wanted to put an overall cap. The other thing which we are becoming growingly aware about is the environmental cost of our becoming rich. People have moved from a bicycle to a scooter to a car to now families which want to have cars for every person in the house, right? We all know families which have 2 cars and 3 cars and 4 cars. Or whatever. What's happened? Think about it for a moment. Each of those cars consumes fuel. Fossil fuels now, mostly, right? Even if it's running on electricity, where's the electricity coming from? From fossil fuels, from dirty coal and from petrol and diesel, all increasing the carbon dioxide thing. So, the environmental, and just to talk, that's not just the fossil fuel which the cars run on. The factories, the metal that is consumed in making those cars, all that is coming from this earth, right? It's taking away a resource which has formed over billions of years, and suddenly it's all gone. There are examples of those countries which are dependent on mining. Actually, the land levels have gone. The entire country has been mined away. Entire areas have been mined away. So we are really on the cusp of a very, very serious relook at how we are doing what we are doing and how we should be doing it. Anyway, just to move on from this slide, uh, environment for the time being. What are the dimensions of this inequality? Where does it come from? Why is it there? First of all, there are certain geographical imperatives. There are countries which are landlocked, where the lands are unfertile, unproductive, sub-Saharan Africa, largely desert, landlocked countries, no trade routes, historically, they have suffered, capacities have not been built up, healthcare, education was not there. Now it's reaching there, but of course, it's reached there late and there's a little bit of catching up for them to do. Central Asian landlocked countries, political strife, warfare, all these geographical factors have led to impoverishment of certain segments of human populations across the globe. Then, in our quest for economic growth, in our quest to become rich, we had during the 1600s to about the middle of the last century, we had this colonial period. So Western powers with their superior armed forces and technologies came and enslaved and captured large territories in Africa, Asia, in Latin America, in quest of precious metals and other commodities which they could trade and become richer and that kind of a thing. So this colonial thing, and then you had the worst form of colonialization was of course the slavery, existence of slavery. Those people remain impoverished. There is apart from the human, you and I are human beings. Tell me how appalling it is to have this kind of poverty when we are thinking of our third car and our fourth homes. It just doesn't make sense. It is not, apart from the human dimension, there is also the sort of friction that is created in a society from this kind of disparities. It's not just that the poorer countries are witnessing, now we've had incidents of it all over in the developed countries where income levels are very high. Even there you have these kind of problems cropping up, and really railing against, you have conflict kind of situation. The first world country under Trump witnessed storming into the lawmaking institutions there to take over. That kind of on the streets fighting will come forth if this kind of haves and have-nots exist as we go into the future. Another dimension is the gender, impoverishment affects women more traditionally, because of the kind of nature of economic jobs available. Women have been worse sufferers of poverty. How does it affect humanity as a whole? Does it matter if women are not given full potential to grow? Does it affect humanity as a whole? Of course it does. Of course it does. When half your population is not well educated, not well fed, not covered for in health, dying during childbirth, what do you expect that society? It will not be producing optimally. Wealth itself will be impacted, not to talk about the human angle. And then you have the ethnic minorities. In our own countries, we have the tribes. In Australia, you have the Aborigines, you have the Native Americans in America. All over the world, the ethnic minorities have been discriminated, subjugated, and the question of inclusion is also. So as we look towards, and of course the latest, as the countries are becoming richer, all of you are familiar with the concept of Gini coefficient. We use a statistical measure of inequality in a society. You'll be surprised, inequalities are increasing across the globe. All societies, most of the countries, a few of course, Scandinavian countries being a very good example, have taken specific measures to reduce economic disparities. But the world over, economic disparities are increasing as a rule. Do you know why? Because today's economies pay a premium for knowledge workers. So knowledge workers are who are the ones who can become knowledge workers? Those who have access to good education. Those who have access to good health care to begin with. So you are starting advantaged and you increase your gap. Rich are becoming richer, poor are becoming poorer. Poor are becoming more disadvantaged. So this is a dimension of human existence that as we look towards the new beginning, we need to address. We need to address very fast. This I've dealt with in somewhat detail because environment is now a fashionable topic. Everybody reads about it, but inclusion, equity, is somehow relegated to a, non-performer in these debates. And I think, I personally, as an IAS officer too, I feel that it's a thing of great concern to all of us. So, climate change is only one of them. And by the way, climate change is still in that orange zone. There are other, like factors which threaten. Then there is this stratospheric ozone depletion. That's another one that was one of those like alarm bells that rang, Suddenly guys started discovering they're getting these like skin cancers and retinal cancers and things like that. And that was because of overexposure to the ozone rays, because to the UV rays, because the ozone layer which protected the earth from direct impact of ultraviolet rays was getting depleted because of the release of chemicals called chlorofluorocarbons. Right, good quiz team. You can make a good quiz team here. So that ozone depletion, and we are safe there. I mean, we have managed to control that. Then there is atmospheric aerosol loading, ocean acidification. We are not yet in the red zone, but it's happening fast. And that's like bleaching the coral reefs, that is adding, each of these factors plays into the other. Climate change goes into biodiversity loss. Ocean acidification goes into climate change. All of these are interrelated factors. But one where we are really, in the red, well into the red zone, is what is known as biogeochemical flows. So what is happening is, because of intense agriculture, this growing consumption, there's so much food wastage. So, we produce enough to feed everybody, but still a lot of people go hungry. That's the inclusion aspect, distribution aspect. And so much food is wasted. That's like the flip side of some kind of, unethical, immoral lifestyles we are adopting today. Not even, I won't go so far to say, but it's definitely unthinking. It's not right. You need to sort of imbibe those values for yourself and just lead your life, according to the right thing. For example, when we talk about climate change, we have set the earth can sustain up to 350 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Today we are at 412. So it's no literature that we are creating. It's a scientific hard fact. We have determined it, we have measured it, and now we are in the red zone. And we need to reverse. Now, what is the danger? Let me conclude this thing by bringing out some stark, sort of threats that we face if we don't address these issues. Inclusion at one level, because poverty also attacks environment. Poverty also attacks sustainability. Poverty also attacks law and order. Poverty also attacks, growth and economic development. So, now many people, there are books which talk about an extinction of life altogether from Earth. The Earth has faced 5 mass extinctions. The first one, nearly 85% of existing life on Earth was destroyed, because these were all non-man-made causes. They just happened. So the first one was because of some planetary alignment changes and all, which led to rapid global cooling, falling sea levels, ice and things like that. So that was the first thing, about 445 million years ago. At that time, human beings were not even on the horizon. The second one happened 340 million years ago. Causes are not very well understood, but asteroid impact is one of the reasons that is ascribed. Otherwise, some climate change, again, at that time, rapid global cooling at that time. Third one, 95%, this was one of the most devastating, 250 million years ago. Because, if you ever get chance to look at, just go to this, Permian mass extinction thing, you'll see, how the climate had become. The entire Earth was darkened by volcanic, emissions and all that. The Earth sunlight was cut out, and 95% of the life was lost. Oxygen was removed from oceans. Desertification of land happened. All trees died out. All supports, ecological supports to life, they were destroyed. So, we had that kind of Triassic one, and then the recent, one which we see all the time and we are familiar with in our folklore about the asteroid impact, which wiped out the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. The dinosaurs were wiped out, along with much other life on Earth, because of the asteroid impact. You know what we are doing? These catastrophic events like mass volcanic eruptions, literally shutting out the sunlight, tremendous drop in temperature, literally like freezing all the waters into ice, an asteroid the size of like a small planet coming and hitting us and wiping out Earth life and things like that. Now we are intervening with the biosystem so much, we human beings are causing that kind of a disaster. So that's the kind of challenge that we live in, this is what so I wanted to sort of make you, through this talk, become aware of the multiple challenges that we are living in. You have a longer wait time to go ahead than me, I'm sure, so you have to be more concerned about it, but like all of us have to be concerned about it. And what is the way forward on this to avoid this kind of catastrophe? You can ask, what can I do? What can you do? First of all, is to be conscious that such threats exist. Once you are aware of these threats existing, which will maybe even, as we speak, temperatures have risen. By the time you enter the job market, 2 more degrees and probably the cost of food and cost of certain consumables will just become so this thing that the whole economic system will be shattered. So even within your lifetime, but more so for the future generations, it's very, very important. So we need to live consciously. Much is talked about that 3R model, reuse, reduce, reuse, and recycle model. I think all of us need to consciously follow. Make an effort. Just don't listen to this passively, but go back. Men who are shaving may shut the tap when you're like that, that's reduce. So, reduce your consumption of various things and all that, recycle, reuse. As you come into policy making level, be aware of these things. And at national level, already some work is going forward. I'd like to end with a very simple message to all of you. This is an imminent threat. Sustainable development is an extremely desirable goal for all of us, not only for current what we are, but also as we go forward. And all of us need to tackle this problem together. Thank you very much.